We are back. Backyard Millionaires podcast number 7.
We are back. Yes.
So you want to franchise your business.
Franchising. I think this is probably one of our...
expertise.
It is definitely an expertise for sure. We have done pretty well doing franchising sales, but we have a lot of small businesses and medium-sized businesses always asking us, how did we do this?
And you guys know by now that Chris and I founded My House Fitness franchise. It is a personal training boutique studios, basically.
We were boutique before boutique.
Yeah, we started the boutique fitness trend, I'm telling you. We have a lot of locations, 29 locations, 10 different states, 19 open currently, and very fun and exciting franchisees from all different walks of life, right?
Absolutely. I think that's one way to really grow your business. I think we looked at it when we started My House Fitness, which was, do we want to just open up another location and then try to either sell it or just keep it operating? And so franchising was another avenue where we can grow faster with using someone else's capital so then they can be a part of it. So
right, absolutely.
It's a great option for a lot of businesses to grow.
Absolutely. It's probably, as you mentioned, it's one of the easiest ways to grow your business, as you said. So why, I guess people probably don't know. Also, it does have a steady form of income into your business, right?
It can,
steady.
absolutely.
You can't have that. A form of revenue, excuse me. So let me ask you this. What is franchising? People may not know what franchises are. I like to always say that you probably patron most of the business that you use in your town from a franchise, like
and you
McDonald's.
Don't even know it.
Yeah, McDonald's.
We all know McDonald's, right?
Yeah, Jersey Mike's, like the places where your
We're
kids
giving
get
some plugs here.
tutored at. Yeah, tutor doctors.
Hey.
Love the guys at tutor doctors. So, anyways, go ahead, Chris. So tell people, what is franchising, just in case they don't know?
Well, one thing that's just really exciting is the founder. The movie just came out with Michael Keaton. Is that right? Yeah, Michael Keaton. And he really talked about how McDonald's grew to what McDonald's is. And a lot of people really didn't quite understand that. But yes, I think when someone says franchising, they automatically think, oh, McDonald's.
And I think one of the key components to franchising, what we always say to our franchisees during training is, if you want to be a business owner and start your own business, don't buy a franchise.
Right.
It's not about being creative, okay? Buying a franchise, the most important differentiator is that it has systems.
Absolutely.
Right? Systems in place. There's a strong brand component. There's a product to it. But most importantly, systems, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. That's what you're franchising. You're taking the intellectual property, which makes up the actual system. And
because the franchisors have made a lot of mistakes that you won't have to. That's kind of the point of it, I guess. Really, they have been down the bumpy road and they've created a product, smoothed out the coal into a diamond, and they're saying, "Here, take this diamond and just do whatever we say to do with it, and you'll be successful."
And quote unquote, don't change it.
Don't change the diamond. Don't try to make a diamond into a ruby, or you won't be successful.
Well, the movie though, which was really funny. I mean, I don't know where I was flying across somewhere. I think I was flying to Phoenix, and I was watching the movie, and I literally started laughing out loud when it came down to like the guy eating the chicken wing in front of location, and it seemed like
set it up because maybe people haven't seen the movie.
Oh well, there you go. Well, obviously, Michael Keaton is basically
the founder.
He's the founder, but he's not necessarily the founder of this business. I think he just saw the need for what McDonald's was producing out there in California. And so when you watch the movie, you get to really the sense of how it evolved to getting to all these locations, thousands of locations.
Tell the chicken wing story.
The chicken wing story, it is funny because we always say that within our own system, and I think anybody who's listening to this is a franchise or deals with this. But here it is, McDonald's is, we sell hamburgers.
Right.
That's it. We have hamburgers and french fries. That's it. And then all of a sudden, he franchises to a few new people, and it comes back to, he shows up to one of their newest locations, and the guy's eating a chicken wing out in the parking lot, and he was like, what is going on? But that's part of it, Like Jim said.
I know a good, and not to interrupt, but one thing I did know when we talked to we are friends with quite a few people that own several McDonald's, and they have to go to, you know, Burger University or whatever. And like they say, you know, okay, so Joe, you're buying a McDonald's franchise.
Right.
Newsflash. Just because you think that the cheeseburger should have 4 pickles doesn't mean it does now, because Sally that came from, you know, Wisconsin and likes the cheeseburgers and thinks they're phenomenal now comes to your location, and now it doesn't taste the same because you've changed it. Right. Also, it has a lot to do with just what you're purchasing, right? So then all of a sudden, this guy who now decides 4 pickles are better than 2 is now ordering way too many pickles, and so on and so forth. And now he's killing the brand. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, then also the movie, which we're really plugging it just because it is a great, you get a better understanding of the franchise system. But they also, with McDonald's, was efficiency. Theirs was, you're going to come to the window, you're going to order, and you're going to have it within seconds so you can go and enjoy it. Where at that time, it was a sit
Unlike
down.
Starbucks, who doesn't care how long you wait. Just kidding.
I'm just kidding. Don't do that. We all love our Starbucks. but that's the idea. If you're able to differentiate yourself in a certain way, can be a franchisable type of business.
Well, it's a plug and play method. So the most important thing is you are still an entrepreneur. You do run your business, and we're talking about franchisees here, and you know, not necessarily the creator, the franchisor.
Because they've already done it. They've already been doing all the heavy lifting, is what we like to say.
Yeah. So most people forget that part, right?
Yeah.
When they purchase a franchise, and you're learning about franchising from this podcast, or if you're familiar with it. A lot of times people forget. They think, what do they think? I mean, as far as that goes, they think they're just waiting around?
Well,
or what?
I think that McDonald's is actually probably a bad example when it comes to most businesses that we see day to day, because they're kind of like, quote unquote, the founders of franchising.
Right.
So they have it down to a science. And so what happens is people forget that and realize that there's other businesses, like Jen said earlier, you know, there's tons of businesses that you patron every single day. They are franchise systems. And
what makes them successful really are the systems that they have in place.
Well, but you got to remember, we're going back to it's the entrepreneur. We were talking about that. Some people think, I'm just going to turn on a sign. I brought a franchise, and people are just going to start coming in through the doors and everything. And that's not it. It's still a startup business, and that's something that we have to tell even our franchisees and say, listen, you don't have those people right there, your community. You have to build the community within the community with our system.
Right.
So when people forget that and they just say,
you still have to hustle.
You have to hustle. It's still a business.
Right.
You're still an entrepreneur, but now we have a manual that says do A through D. Don't do E, but just do A through D, you know?
Right.
And so that is something that we always try to tell our franchisees.
Right.
Absolutely, you're still going to work. You're still going to be going to bed late at night because you're taking some phone calls after hours.
You have to make sure your employees or the people that work for you are implementing the systems as well, because
that's a big one
if they're
too,
not,
yeah.
One of the examples that I like to use during training is Chick-fil-A. So basically, Chick-fil-A is a fast food restaurant. However, the ladies who lunch, as I like to call them, or the stay-at-home moms,
right.
Wouldn't be really, in certain areas, caught dead going to McDonald's with their children.
Right.
However, they'll spend all day at Chick-fil-A. And really, it's the same stuff. It's French fries, it's fast food chicken, it's still got preservatives in it. It's still not great for you to eat every day, right? It's still fattening.
Yeah.
It's yummy,
still
delicious.
Tastes good.
Delicious, yes. But at the same time, the point of the matter is, Chick-fil-A has done a great job of creating a franchise system and a brand that makes people think they're better than any other fast food restaurant by doing certain things. That always saying, how may I serve you? And, you know, all of the ways that they treat people with exceptional care. So if someone were to buy a Chick-fil-A franchise and open it up and not have the employees saying, how may I serve you? And not going above and beyond, changing the franchise system,
wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be the same. So even a Chick-fil-A in that case wouldn't be as great as it could be for that example.
Yeah. And that's what it is. The system in itself is where to fish for clients. You know, what to say, how to sell, you know, what makes you different.
How would people franchise their business? That's kind of probably what people are thinking. So we know that we've talked before about, so you have an idea and you want to create a business model. So now you've done all that. You think it's great. You've implemented systems. You've done this stuff. Now you want to franchise it. You've decided instead of opening up 4 or 5 locations yourself, you want to franchise. How could somebody, let's talk briefly about how someone could franchise their business.
Well, it is definitely a system within itself, right? So a couple things you absolutely have to do before you even consider about franchising your business is obviously you need to find out, is your branding being consistent internally and externally? Differentiation, is it easily communicated? Do you have a system in place? We keep saying system, but that is basically what you're selling. At the end of the day, there are other quote unquote mom and pop operations probably do very similar to what you do, but you have to be able to differentiate yourself to say what makes you different.
Exactly. And it can't be you that makes it different.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's the other thing too. You say mom and pop, I think restaurant. I don't know why, but you think about these restaurants, even in our area, that are just phenomenal. The food's pretty good, but the atmosphere is incredible.
Right.
And so if they were to franchise, they would lose the atmosphere.
It could.
So if it could, I'm saying in the example I'm giving. So as long as you have those systems on how to build that atmosphere, like Chick-fil-A does, making sure people say certain things, where do they stand in the Chick-fil-A, how do they greet people, things like that. Those are extremely important, because just because you would say, how may I serve you, if you don't teach people that they need to say that because it's a differentiator, they won't naturally say that. They'll say whatever they would naturally say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that is the system. And I think that a couple things that we learned, the hard way, which was, Jen laughs over there, is we thought we had it all figured out. You know, I think we were like, oh man, we absolutely have A to Z figured out. We have it down. We have procedures. We have our policies. We have all of our quote unquote paperwork. And then all of a sudden, we sold our first franchise. We are just bubbling. And then all of a sudden there were those other questions that started coming up, and we started looking at each other like, oh wow, I didn't even think about that.
Or things that we do naturally that we didn't realize wouldn't be communicated clearly, or things that I would say, and this is not a dig at our first franchisee because he is phenomenal. We love Ben, but I'm using this as an example. Some things to me are common sense things, where to other people it doesn't come naturally in that way. So
you start realizing where your strengths and weaknesses are, both as franchisors and franchisees. And that's where we're very humble people in regards to looking at and saying we can always be better.
Well, it's hard to be humble though when you're perfect in every way.
Well, of course,
but
I do hear this every day, but it's all good. She's pretty close to being perfect.
Remember that song, Lord, it's hard to be humble. That's a good one.
But in some of the things that just thinking about this podcast, I remember really considering and saying, you really do. When you start really going down that road, saying I want to franchise my business, you feel like you have thought of everything, and you really haven't. And so those are the things you start learning as you progressively
that's where you need help. That's when you really need help to come in.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
There's a whole world in franchising that it's almost like you dig deeper, you get more information out there into those type of things where you wouldn't know naturally understand.
Well, we did our homework. I'm definitely a tire kicker. Or also a strategist in regards to where do we want to be in 5, 10, 15 years, which anybody who's getting into the business or any business should absolutely be thinking about that. But when we started looking at it, we started strategizing, what kind of partners we could have, both regional and national. Where do we want to open up our first franchises? How do we do that? And so by the time you really start learning all that stuff, you start realizing you need to pull in some experts that can help you with that. And I think that kind of says what we're going to do like a little series down the road, which will kind of break it all apart, because there's a lot of layers.
Like, do you just sell your franchise to anyone?
There's one
We definitely
layer.
made that mistake, a couple times. So you want to make sure that you are not so excited to expand that you get the wrong people in your system. That
you have to vet.
You have to make sure you really have to vet those people out.
You do, and you really have to strategize, because I think that, like what Jen just said, you're looking at that money going, oh, that'd be great. But the long haul, it's not a good fit. And when it's not a good fit, it's going to affect you.
For either party, it's
Absolutely.
not a good fit.
And so, at a 10,000 foot overview level of how to start a franchise, so that's kind of what you guys are here. You're listening to saying, what is a franchise? Truly, what is a franchise? How did we get into it? But at the end, the 10,000 foot overview is there's a lot of legal stuff. This is a big deal. It's there's definitely a federal regulation to one side of it, and also a state regulation to most states. So you have those disclosure documents. Those
right.
are the franchising Bible.
Right. You can't, and you just can't have any attorney creating your franchise disclosure documents, right. Because just like a great accountant right. knows how to help you out, a great attorney in the franchising industry yes. is what you need, because you really there's things that you're not even going to be thinking about that right. people could try to pull on you, or little things that need to be in there to protect both sides.
Right.
So, and people that are high up in the industry when it comes to attorneys for franchising really have seen it all. Mm-hmm. And so that is something where when you talk about wanting to spend money on things when you're creating, mm-hmm. Deciding to franchise, I would say that is one place that you don't want to be cheap, right?
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. Because what it comes down to is you have good intentions. And your good intentions is obviously, we look at our franchisees as family members.
Absolutely.
Some family members want to, every once in a while, take us to the shed a little bit. But then we also have a lot that understand that this is a family, and we're a family to build our brand.
When they understand that it's their business. And those are the most right. successful franchisees.
They are.
Would you not say the ones that they bought a franchise, so they follow the systems, but that they know that they need the hustle part.
That's it.
What about creating company procedures and policies and practices? This is another part that you might be really creative when it comes to your business, and you might be like I am, which is I am a people person, I'm out in the community, but do not set me down in front of an Excel spreadsheet. Like what? So pretty. I can't. I don't know how to work it. I don't want to do it. I have ADD. I can only focus for about an hour. That's why these podcasts are only 30 minutes long. No, but so how do they figure out what about that? I mean, that's important. And what if you're like me and you could never come up with procedures, policies, and practices?
Well, there's people out there who can. That's the beauty thing. There's a business right there that there are people out there who can do that.
Should they do that themselves?
Well, you obviously know your own business. Right. So there's where the starting part is.
Maybe rough draft it and then find someone, or what?
Yes.
Who does that? Who helps you with creating that?
There are mystery people that are out there. You
on
have
Fiverr?
to look. Yeah, you have to look. You got to look all over the place. You got to hunt them down. But really, there are people out there who that is their profession. They are great copywriters. They're good procedure type people. They understand how to take somebody from point A to point B, and that's what you want, because, like Jen said earlier, what you said, you can think that you know it all and
right.
you communicate it, and then half of them didn't understand it and the other half do. So you really want to find that person that can communicate what you're trying to get across.
Well, another thing too that I just thought about is creating a separate entity that is the franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, like with my parents had Mustang Products, and then they had our last name Wharton Sales, and things like that. They had separate businesses to run different parts of their business. Mm-hmm. Where in this respect, if you started out with Joe's Dry Cleaning, now you're going to need Joe's Dry Cleaning Franchise Inc. or whatever you want to do. Correct?
Exactly. That's how you have to do it.
Because you can't really have the main business be the franchise, correct?
Right.
You do.
You have to have a separate company that's going to be running it, because that is going to be the franchising system. Then your first location just becomes your affiliate. That becomes your corporate location. But you also have other things too. You're talking about
partnerships.
Registering. You got to register your name.
Yeah.
Try to get get an actual registration on your name, making sure that you're got it as sealed down as possible. My House Fitness is through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Company, or the company, the government. But you have to do those things, and so there's a lot of layers just to make that first go and franchising your business. But all these things have to be really thought about. So that's why we're talking about trying to do that series of just trying to say A, B, C, and just really kind of lay it out, because a lot of people do want to franchise their business.
So what would you say the number one thing to tell people if they're considering franchising their business? What is the first step? The very first thing that they really should look into I'm going to say in the marketplace. Is it sustainable in the market? Is there a lot of things happening in the marketplace? What would you say?
I would say, are you saying like research? Like
like I have Joe's Dry Cleaning. Okay.
Well, then I'd go check out every dry cleaner in the area. I would really just hustle and find out how great is Joe's Dry Cleaning, and be humble. And we've already said humble. You got to humble yourself to say maybe somebody else is just doing it better than you. And then when you find out who's doing it better than you, then you want to say,
copy it.
Rip it off.
Rip it off.
You know, but you want to sit there and say, wow, maybe that's some things that we
kind of did that
doing.
too, right? I mean, we looked at other brands that were out there just to see kind of what they were doing and how successful they were in the marketplace too, because the last thing you want to do is franchise your business and realize that it's not the marketplace is not going to be able to hold
right. It could be a regional thing as well. You know, it could be a regional type of business. And if that's the case, then you have always those kind of factors. You also have to take into account what can you do to make your business better. You know, when we said the branding, there was some things that we did. You know, when we opened our first location, if you looked at the first location to now, you would just sit there and go, "What? This is not the same place."
Right.
But we realized, you know, after a couple of years, we found out who our target demographic was. We were realizing that we did a lot of stuff. I don't say we did it on the cheap, but when we opened our first location, we did it economically. We looked at it and said we knew that it was going to metamorphosize itself one way or another, so we didn't want to get too pigeonholed into a certain type of look.
I mean, and this comes with people that, so you have an idea, people out there, before we even had the very first location of My House Fitness, in our minds, we thought we could create,
fingers crossed,
create it into be a franchise. So we did, even before the first location opened.
We did, right.
So if this doesn't mean that if you're out there and you're like, well, shoot, how can I franchise something? I don't even have a business. That's okay, because, you know, making sure that you open up, and this is one thing too that we've told friends of ours that had an idea, and, you know, people that we have consulted with and worked with, they had this idea. We're like, okay, great, let's have one location open and be successful for a year or two, and then franchise it, because you really have to put out there that when you are franchising, you're taking on another family member and their family. So you don't want to have something that isn't sustainable or hasn't been proven to work. Correct?
Well, exactly. We did that. You know, when we did our first franchise location, we sold it to a guy that we just talked about. His ears are burning right now. Ben. We love Ben. And he was across town.
Stud.
He was across town. And Jen and I really looked at it and we said to ourselves, he
lived in our town, actually.
We did.
Where our first location was. But then he opened another
location. And the story goes is this. We wanted to make sure that it was not the Chris and Jen show, like this podcast, Backyard Millionaires.
Yeah.
But no, we wanted to say, hey, let's make sure this isn't just a Jen and Chris show. You know, we're awesome.
We know that.
We're awesome. But we want to make sure that this can be a sustainable type of model. And so when Ben opened up, we really helped him, and he got going, and all of a sudden Ben was doing great. And it was fast too.
Break even.
He was a quick break even guy, and we just looked at each other, and we seriously didn't even entertain franchise sales after we sold to Ben, because we wanted to do that. That's the type of people we are. We're like, let's make sure. Let's just validate this sucker. And we did. And so anyway, long story short.
So the point is, you don't try to rush it, is the point.
Take your time. And realize this is a marathon, as Jen's training for her marathon.
Yes.
This is a marathon. This is your business. This is your future. And just trying to run out there and try to sell 100 franchises not smart. And anybody who's in the franchising world will say, yes, Jen and Chris, you are absolutely right. But doesn't mean you can't strategize to try to accomplish that. We know a lot of franchisors that we know through the franchising industry that have done that, and they have 100 plus, 200, 300, and it is awesome to see where they came from and how they grew.
Right. So I think that's kind of where the next couple podcasts will go. in, maybe not in such any order, but we will be talking in the future podcasts about, we will talk to some of the outstanding franchisors in the world right now.
Yes.
Global good friends of ours. Franchising is a very small world, and we've been blessed to meet a lot of really cool cats through that. So we're going to have them on our show, give you guys some insider secrets, maybe that you won't.
We're going to pull it out of them.
Yeah.
We're going to reach in there and say, how did you do it? Because we want to know.
That's right. Or our listeners want to know.
Yes.
So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about what franchising is. Watch The Founder. Go get a Chick-fil-A sandwich and McDonald's French fries. No.
Coming from a fitness franchise.
Starbucks.
Oh, we had a client. Their kid brought in McDonald's, and I love McDonald's French fries, and I was like, you can't have that in our studio.
No. You know what the best is? The best, and it can be from McDonald's or Chick-fil-A. Really doesn't matter, but is the Coke.
Oh yeah, it's cold.
Actually, I would say Chick-fil-A is probably better, just because they take the ice and they chop it up, and that's what it is. It makes it cold. God, Coke is so good, y'all.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to go.
Not
get
Diet
Chick-fil-A
Coke,
now.
not Diet Coke, P-Norm. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you hanging out with us today. We look forward to talking to you next time, and we delve into some more of our friends and. And
don't forget to check out backyardmillionaires.com.
Yes.
Check that out. We have the podcast on there. You can also share that through there, also through iTunes.
Subscribe. Like our kids say, we need some subs.
Yeah.
Subscribers.
We need some subs.
All right, guys.
Good talking.
Take care. Bye.